Hi, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. I stayed up last night. They sent me the screener at like 1 o'clock, so I stayed up.
No way. You stayed up all night and watched it?
Yeah, I stayed up to watch it. But
That's so
anyway,
funny. I know. Are you LA time? Like what time is it?
no, I'm in Pennsylvania, so not quite as bad at least, but still, it was late.
Nice.
But anyway, I enjoyed it. So I'm not familiar with the original anime that this is based on, though, and I'm sure some people who see this aren't going to be. So can you talk a bit sort of about, what this story is about and what it's based on?
Yeah, our story follows a young boy, Seiya, who is in search of his abducted sister when he accidentally taps into this sort of hidden power, which we call Cosmo in our film. And once he taps into this, it sort of causes this chain reaction of his destiny sort of clicking in place and God, and I mean there's so many crazy things that happen, but basically he finds his true destiny, which is to protect the goddess Athena, which we soon find out that he does not want to do. And it's sort of, it's a chase story about him trying to protect Athena and self-discovery with himself and accepting your destiny. I think, is a huge theme that we follow throughout our entire film.
Mm-hmm. Now you play Sienna, who is Athena, or has the goddess Athena in her. So can you talk about sort of did you research that kind of mythology or anything before doing this, or did you just take it all from the script?
Yeah, I had never heard of Saint Seiya before I jumped into it as well, but diving into research, I quickly discovered that it never really hit in the United States like it did sort of everywhere else throughout the world. So I did as much research as I possibly could, but there's 30 years of source material. So there was a lot to dive into. I think I had about 3 weeks to get into it before we actually started filming. So I feel like I'm still always trying to play catch up. But the one great thing about our film is it very much starts at the beginning. So it's a slow introduction to some of these main characters. I mean, there's so many more characters that we don't even touch on in the universe of Saint Seiya. But it was a lot of fun diving into her. And, I think the trick of live action is staying truthful to what has been done before in the original anime and manga, but also to create something fresh and new. And especially, I hope our film brings in a whole new audience of people who don't have any idea what Saint Seiya is. And then they're able to dive into all the old source material that we have. And then maybe we can create more films.
Did you also look into like Athena and those kind of mythologies as well as the manga?
I did. It was fun. I think I really used sort of more of the source material from the anime and manga, kind of jumping into it. But definitely, I jumped into some of the Greek mythology that was there, and even just like down to even details in our costuming. Like Athena, she wears this breastplate with, she has the symbol of the owl on it, which is the symbol of Athena, and just sort of like these small details that come into play. And a lot of that is shown, I think, through our costuming and a lot of symbols throughout, like even in Alman and Sienna's home, and like there's all these kind of like small details of Greek mythology sort of like spread out throughout our film.
Mm-hmm. What part of, after you dove into it, like what part of her did you have a hard time connecting with? Was there anything?
I don't know if I had a hard time connecting with anything. I think that the hardest with anything when it comes with fantasy, we're working a lot with green screens and it's a lot of special effects. So I think there's a huge reliance on trusting your director and your producers because we're really seeing nothing on the day as we're filming. And you have to use a lot of your imagination, and there's a lot of storyboarding, and which I always enjoy because I think it's a fun part of our job is the imagination side of it and getting to create and play and figure things out sort of on the day. But I think at the same time, it probably was the most challenging because you're not really exactly sure what it's gonna look like. And you have to sort of just trust at the end of the day and sort of just fall into it and wait for the end result.
Speaking of that, connecting with that, did you do, I don't know, but I'm assuming you did some kind of wire work or something when you were up in the air as Athena. Can you talk about that and what that was?
They actually, Andy Chang, our amazing stunt coordinator, I think some of our fight sequences are like, it's such a standout in our film. Obviously, Athena's not doing a ton of fighting with her bare hands, but we do a rig where she is sort of floating in the air. And so that was a conversation where we thought about wires, but with wires, it very much looks like you're being held in the air. So they actually created this like rig where I'm on a bicycle seat. So I'm actually sitting on the seat and they'll like hoist me in the air, which was very interesting. We did a lot of different tests and camera angles to see how it would work. But, I think it's all those like small details that you don't think about and while you're filming and then even after, but it just makes such a big difference, like those small, tiny things, which we have. Andy Chang he's just the master behind all of it. And he created such a safe environment for us. And all those small details that like I would never think of, but that's his job to think of them, and then they make it on the screen.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to, you talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to talk about your costume, even not just Athena, but even just your Sienna. You have a lot of really nice like clothes that are nice. I know they're not exactly costumes,
yeah.
But that really help build that. So how much did that kind of help you to get into her?
I'm a very physical actor. I do everything sort of clicks when I'm like in my costume, in my hair and makeup. And they did such a great job of designing these costumes too. Because it's fantasy. It's not in a modern world, but they also wanted to ground it. They didn't want everything we were wearing to be like completely ridiculous. So it's just this fine line of creating these looks that feel grounded but still feel like they're not necessarily a part of this world. And I think they nailed it. They did such a great job. And we wanted her, Athena in the anime, in the manga, she wears these beautiful white gowns, which we did wear some, and we wanted to incorporate that, but we didn't want her to be a damsel in distress. We wanted her to have a little bit of edge, and you can't destroy the world in a skirt all the time. You got to wear some pants. So you're like, let's find some pants, and so that was fun, just sort of creating her wardrobe like in her normal everyday life, and just like picking her colors. And that collaboration side is always really fun for me when it comes to like the look of the characters.
Can you talk a bit about working with the cast? I mean, you've got Sean Bean, you've got Famke Janssen, and you've got McKenna. So can you sort of talk about that a bit, just working with all of them?
I mean, they're all so incredible. We were really lucky to have such a great cast, and McKenna, I think, leading our film. He just such a great, amazing job. I really can't imagine anyone else playing Seiya. I feel like he was born to play that part. But in his background in martial arts, and he's just so good in this role. And then of course, like Sean Bean, Famke Janssen, like they're legends. They've been doing this forever. They could read a dictionary and it would sound good, and they're the two characters that are really selling this exposition of our film, which it's a lot of source material, and they just do such a great job, delivering it to the audience, and you just can't stop watching them on screen. And I think some of our scenes together, Sean and I and Famke and I, they're some of my favorite parts, I think, in the whole movie. And it was just such a treat to be able to work with them.
Now, like you said, there is a lot of mythology. Is there more planned to make to the story, or do you not know? Because it does seem like there's a lot to go. I know it gives me that feeling anyway, watching it, that there's definitely a lot more to tell.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to tell. We barely scratched the surface of everything that this universe has, and there's a lot more characters to introduce. And of course, you jumping into this, we would love to make more. It's such a beloved franchise that I think people would love to see more, but it's also getting people to the movie theater and to see the movie and supporting it. And if people want to see more, of course, we'd love to jump into more. But there's so many more nights we've yet to introduce. There's a lot to do.
Right. Well, I enjoyed it. So interested to see more. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.